and welcome to our tutorial series on variables in Xamarin Studio. Right now I just have Xamarin Studio open here. I just opened it at the bottom here, and this is the home page. So if you look to my left, we have a scroll bar with a series of projects. So these are projects I've already started, and now we're going to start a new one. So projects are called solutions in Xamarin Studio, which is why we have the new solution button up here. We're going to create a single app view, and it's going to be written in C#. So with that selected, we'll hit next. Now let's give this a name. Let's call this variables tutorial, because that's exactly what it is. Now we'll leave this the same, and on the target platforms we'll be developing in Android and iOS, both, so we'll leave these both checked. And we'll click next. So we have our name. I'm just going to undo that there. So this was variables tutorial, and we want to save it to a place we'll remember. So I have it saved here. You can click browse or type in the link directly, and we'll hit create. Now this loads the interface for us, and if we look on the left, we have our solution, which is our project. Now this is a file explorer and has a list of all of our files. If we open up variables tutorial.droid, this has all of our Android files, and the iOS, variables tutorial.ios, has all of the iOS files. Now we're going to do a couple of things to finish the setup. We'll first go into look at the iOS section. So let's close this up for now. We'll just focus on iOS. We're going to open up viewcontroller.cs just by double clicking on it, or you could right click and open with source code editor. And we are also going to open up the main.storyboard. So again, just by double clicking. The viewcontroller.cs file, see the two open up at the top here, this is where we're going to be putting our actual code. I'll explain a little of what's going on in just a bit here. And main.storyboard is where we design the layout for our apps. So although it's taking a little while to load, it will soon show up with a phone screen, which will be kind of like a simulator. So this is where we design the layout of apps. And it is taking a little while to load. To our right, we have a toolbox and the properties. So the toolbox allows us to add in widgets such as text fields or buttons, or basically anything we want to actually give the app some kind of functionality and appearance. And the properties section is where we modify those. So right now we're on view as generic. I'm going to change this to iPhone 5S because that's more pleasing to me. So right now we just have a phone screen, and we're going to just click up here, zoom to fit, and I'm just going to center it just by clicking and dragging. So when you create this, it creates a default button called Hello World Click Me, which is going to get rid of that. So right now I have the background selected, nothing selected, and if I just click on this, I'm just going to click delete, and it will get rid of the button for me. Instead, I'm going to, under the toolbox, find, under controls, I'm going to find label, and I'm going to add a couple of labels. So here's one. In fact, I'll just add the one for now. I might add in one later. So I'm just going to center this. I'm going to expand it a little bit. And under properties, in fact, I'm going to give this a name. I'll call this LBL label, because this is a type label, so I start with LBL. I'm just going to call it label. And right now it has the text saying label, so I'm going to delete that, and I'm just going to have it display a blank text for now. I want my text centered, so I'm just going to click here, and I'm going to increase the font size just a little bit. We'll go to 20. So this is just a basic setup. The reason I'm doing this is because when we actually print stuff off, I want it to display on this phone screen because we're keeping in mind keeping in line the concept of app development. So I want this to, every time we run the code, I want to open up the phone simulator and have my result displayed on the screen in this label. So this is just kind of like a text box where we can print out messages. Now if we'll switch back to viewcontroller.cs, we have some code going on here. So we have just a variable created. We'll get rid of that because we don't need it. So I'm just selecting it and deleting it. And from here to here, this code that I have highlighted is to deal with a button. So this is button handling code. Because we deleted our button, we no longer need this code, so I'm just going to highlight it and get rid of it. And now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type this in, lbl label.text, and I'm just going to end with a semicolon. The reason I write this here is because I'm calling the label that we created in main storyboard, so that's this here, and I'm calling the text portion of it, and later on when we create variables I'm going to assign values by saying equals and then some kind of value here. So basically this is just saying that the text portion of this label will be equal to whatever we put after the equal sign. So that way we can print out messages by just assigning the text field to that message. Right, this is setting up the iOS portion, and now we'll set up the Android portion. So I'm just going to go ahead and close that up here, and I'll open up the Droid. And in fact, I'll just close these files here. First, save them by hitting Command S. Go to main storyboard, Command S, and I'm going to close these two. Now I'll open up variables tutorial.droid, and I'm going to open up the main activity.cs. So this is where our code is going to go, and I'll open up resources, I'll go under layout, and I'll hit main.axml. So the main activity is very much like the viewcontroller.cs. This is where the main source code is going to go, and main.axml is like main.storyboards. This is where we design our layout. So if we go to main.axml, I'm going to go under device and select the Nexus S, because that's what I've been working with lately. You can choose whatever device you want. And again, we get the default button, which I'll delete. Now there are slight differences between iOS and Android development, so although a plain text box will have pretty much the same function as a label, in fact a text view might be more appropriate. I'm going to add that in now, and basically it's the same thing as a label in iOS, so I'll rename this to, I'll give it txt text, and right now it has text written. I'm just going to get rid of that, and I'll center the text, and I'm just going to give it a size by going under style, text size. This is going to be 30 points. So it will just make it bigger, the text will be centered, and if you want some proof here I'm just going to write text again, and there we go, it's bigger and it's centered, but I don't want that there. So I'll just get rid of that. Now, remember this name here, txt text, because we'll need it in just a second. If we switch over to mainActivity.cs, very similar to in iOS, we have these button handling functions. We're going to get rid of that, and we're going to get rid of this variable up here, just because we don't need them and we don't want extra code cluttering up our space. Now we have to do something that we didn't have to in iOS. We'll have to initialize this field. So this text field that we have up here, we're going to have to initialize it, and then we can reassign it. So what we're going to do, this is a type text view, and we're just going to call this text, and we're going to say find view by ID, and this is going to be of type text view, and we say resource, id dot txt text. And the reason it's not showing up here, we'll go to main XML. I'm just going to save this, Command S again. So that will save the text field that I created. And there we go, it's not red anymore, so we know it's all fine. So this line here, I know I went through this quickly, but it's not too important to understand the specifics of it, just to know what this line does. So this is creating this object text of type text view, and this is just saying that this is the type, and we're basically selecting the name of that particular text field and assigning any value that goes in that text field to this variable. So then what we can say, just like in iOS, we can say text.text equals, and then whatever we have after here. So if we wanted to have it say hello world, this is what we do, and it would change the text of our little text box here to hello world. So I'm just going to get rid of that. And so every time in Android only, every time we initialize a label or a button or a text view or anything, we have to do this for it. But that's just about all you need to know about this, and we'll get into actual variable assignment in just a bit here.